know is I'm really glad I got the coins I've got, and I'm not selling any of them, not right here, right now, and I'm not sure I'll ever sell any of them, but I need a significantly higher price. I mean, significantly higher to pry a few out of my hands. So
Uh,
it's pretty amazing to me what's going on.
100%. And I think a lot of people feel the same way you do. I'm not handing over my Bitcoin to Larry Fink and Co.
Oh, there's no way.
Right.
There's absolutely no way. Yeah, yeah,
So, a couple months ago, Lawrence, I had the privilege and honor to have you and Caitlin Long on the show, and
oh
then
yeah,
we did a debate, and we had Foss, and we had yourself,
yeah,
and we had Mr. Lavish,
yeah, yeah,
and essentially the debate was around the rehypothecation, right?
yeah.
So that's a big theory as to why a lot of people believe that the gold price is
No
suppressed,
question.
right? It's the rehypothecation
Yeah,
aspect of it. So, we are getting a little bit of a pump. Supposedly they're buying this much Bitcoin. Is that still a concern of yours,
it's not
or
a big concern. I mean, I'll give you my view on this whole paper Bitcoin argument. Okay, I mean, and I see extremists on one side. I see people who say, look, we can see it all on chain, and there's absolutely no way there can ever be paper Bitcoin. Those people are wrong. There are a lot of futures. There will be more futures, and derivative contracts, et cetera, et cetera. And any contract for Bitcoin that got made at FTX, and FTX just created an account entry like a bank and said, "Oh yeah, you own a Bitcoin now." And so all they were really doing was, and of course, they weren't going to screw that guy. If Bitcoin went up and the guy sold it, they were going to give him the gain, the dollar gain. But they didn't. They didn't hold the underlying. You know what I mean? They did not hold the underlying, and that's paper Bitcoin. That's what I'm talking about. Where somebody, the price ought to be set by balancing the supply and demand, right? And so if somebody takes in dollars, real dollars, and says they're selling you Bitcoin, but doesn't actually have the Bitcoin they sold you, they just sold you a claim on Bitcoin, and this is why, yeah, it's not your, not your keys, not your cheese, right? Then they've sold you paper Bitcoin, and they've suppressed the price because your dollars sent in should have been part of, they should have had to try and compete for an on-chain coin, and they didn't. Custody. I want to be able to get on an airplane and leave the country with my coins. And so I take them through the process of self custodying. In fact, this weekend I'm going to spend some time on a Zoom call with a gentleman who's one of my clients, and I'm going to take him through how to set up his Trezor, and get his words, and I'll have him go through it a bunch of times. Send a little bit of money over there, wipe it out, restore it, send it, wipe it out, restore it. Okay, and then I'll send him a template for what I call the treasure map, which is the paper he's going to write to his wife and kids that says, this is our Bitcoin, this is where it is, this is what you should do when I get hit by a bus. And then that template and that treasure map needs to be incredibly secure, as you and I both know. So yeah, I think that's a better solution. But to be fair, I mean, some people don't want to go that far, and if they're just, I mean, as opposed to owning stocks and bonds, buying a Bitcoin ETF, um, it can be it's a damn good step in the right direction. Let's put it that way. It's not perfect. I saw a stat the other day. It was like 79% of it had moved within 6 months. I think that's correct. I mean, good lord. So there's really a much smaller available supply, and as more and more people come to it, I mean, and the other thing that you see in asset management is that people basically chase performance, and so this thing, I mean, it was up 150% last year, and once you see things, outperforming everything else, you increase your allocation. Sharp ratio is higher than nearly anything else. I think it depends on what time frame you use, but I think in general it has one of the highest Sharp ratios out there. And so, it's going to get to the point where it's going to be irresponsible not to have some. And I think that's the other thing that's going to happen. I mean, you're going to see people talking about it. People are going to tell their friends how well they did in it, and you're going to get guys calling their financial advisor, their RIA, and saying, "Hey, do we own any of this? No. Well, my friend owns it. It's doing really well. Why not?" And then the RIA is going to say, "Oh shit. Okay. Well, I don't want to say no anymore. All right, I'll put 2% in there, or I'll put 5% in there." And then when the 2 or the 5% doubles, it becomes a bigger percentage. Yeah. So
so So anyways, and I do want to pull up, which I think is a great kind of visualization of this, which is the rates that we're in, right? Because you hear about these crazy numbers, you hear about the deficit, the spending, all of that stuff. But I think once you visualize it, I think it's a little bit different. So I'm going to read you this number, Lawrence, and then you tell me what it means, right? So on the very bottom, it says U.S. unfunded liabilities. The number is currently at $212 trillion. How much money is that?
It's a lot of damn money. I mean, it's look, the deficit this year was 2 trillion if you count, if you count what was done with the student loan thing, and it's growing. I mean, the deficit in the last quarter was 500 billion, and I think this year it'll probably be 2.5, maybe 3 trillion. It's out of control, Nico. It's absolutely out of control. And that's what the world is coming to realize. I mean, I think Preston and Luke have done great jobs on Twitter of showing it. These charts of BTC compared to TL.
Like the perfect storm of the ETF inflows and then the halving coming up, and it creates this environment where you're just like, holy cow, I don't know, this is going to be crazy. But I do want to kind of double back to the point that you were making earlier, which is we were all expecting a recession.
Yeah.
And I guess it's delayed. I guess,
Well,
did they pull off a soft landing, Larry?
yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, it's delayed. It's rigged. I mean, we're expecting a recession based on the 210 inversion and everything else, and it's a different economy than it used to be, and it's not to say we're not going to eventually get a recession, but I think that the people in power recognize that if they were to try and clamp things down, it would all collapse, and so they've got their foot on the accelerator of spending. And I mean, it's what people are calling fiscal dominance, which is to say that even though interest rates are higher, it doesn't matter because we've got all these infrastructure bills, we've got all this spending, we've got all this defense spending. We're sending money to Ukraine, which really means we're sending money to U.S. defense contractors, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's the piece that I missed and that a lot of us missed. I mean, yes, we should have had a recession. And by the way, for the average person, and it was so cool when Bitcoin showed up and then Safe wrote the book, and then your whole generation starts quoting, von Mises to me. I'm like, holy shit, how did this happen? The reinforcements have arrived. I got all these 20 and 30-year-olds who totally fucking get it. And you guys in the fourth turning terms, you guys are going to be the hero generation to set it right. So it's very, for an old gold bug sound money advocate like myself, it's been very, very, encouraging to see this smart young generation jump on it and get it. And and look, I mean, they've got the power because they've got a lot of fiat money. They've been around a long time. They control the levers, they control the system, but we've got the numbers and we've got the sharper spear. So we're going to win. That's all there is to it.
We are going to win 100%. And Larry, it sounded like you were vindicated. It's vindication.
Yeah, it feels that way a little bit. I mean, it's I'll feel a lot better when Ben Bernanke is in the history books along with John Law. I mean, I think he's the most irresponsible, fraudulent central banker ever. And there's just no doubt in my mind that he deserves to be remembered very, very poorly. That's not the case yet. But when this thing goes